Welcome to a video taking a look at all of the topics that are going to be on the Year 10 December assessment. What I suggest you do is, before I answer the questions on each slide, you pause the video and attempt the questions yourself first. Then press play to see if you got the questions right and make any corrections if you need to. So first up, we've got negative numbers. We've got negative 8 multiplied by 7. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 8 times 7. So ignore the negatives to begin with, and that's going to give us an answer of 56. Now we've got a negative multiplied by a positive, and so a negative multiplied by a positive gives us a negative answer, and so that gives us an answer of negative 56. Here we've got negative 27 divided by negative 9. So again, ignoring the negative signs to begin with, 27 divided by 9, that gives us an answer of 3. Now if I've got negative 27 divided by negative 9, that's going to give me a positive answer because it is 2. I'm dividing a negative by a negative. So my answer here is simply going to be 3. Now essentially, if the signs are the same, so if I've got 2 negatives or 2 positives, I get a positive answer. If the signs are different on each number, then I get a negative answer. Okay, so that's multiplying and dividing. Now taking a look at when we are adding and subtracting negative numbers. So here I've got negative 7 minus 5. Now here, when I see 2 negative signs next to each other in the middle of the sum, I can say that that is going to give me a positive. So now I've got negative 7 plus 5. That's going to give me an answer of negative 2. Then this one here, I've got negative 5 plus minus 2. So again, I've got these 2 signs in the middle of my sum. If the signs are different in the middle, that gives me a negative. So I've got minus 5 minus 2, that gives me minus 7. Okay, on to our next topic, adding and subtracting mixed numbers. Here I've got 3 3/4 minus 1 5/6. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn each of these into top-heavy fractions. So 4 times 3 gives me 12, add on the 3, that gives me 15/4. Then from that I'm subtracting 1 5/6. So turning this into a top-heavy fraction, 6 times 1, add on the 5, that gives me 11/6. So I've got 15/4 minus 11/6. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the numbers on the bottom the same. I'm going to find the lowest common denominator. So to find that, I need to find the lowest common multiple of the 2 denominators. So what is the lowest common multiple of 4 and 6? Or we can think of it as another way, what is the lowest number that is in the 4 times table, which is also in the 6 times table? That's going to give us 12, and this then becomes our common denominator. So it gives us the number that goes on the bottom the whole way through. So 12 is just going to go on the bottom the whole way through. Now we need to think about, what have I multiplied 4 by to reach 12? I've multiplied 4 by 3. So whatever I've done to the number on the bottom here, whatever I've done to 4, I'm also going to do to 15. So 4 I multiplied by 3 to get to 12. So I'm also going to multiply 15 by 3. So that gives me 45 on the top. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. What have I multiplied 6 by to reach 12? I've multiplied it by 2. So I'm also going to multiply the top by 2 as well, and so that becomes 22. Now I've got to this point, I'm just going to subtract the 2 numbers on the top, 45 minus 22, and that's going to give me an answer of 23/12. Now at this point I've got a top-heavy fraction, so I can turn it back into a mixed number, and as a mixed number, that's going to be how many 12s fit into 23? 1, with a remainder of 11/12. Now here it says at the top, adding and subtracting mixed numbers. The method for adding and subtracting mixed numbers is no different. So the only thing that would be different is that instead of having a negative sign here, I'd have a positive sign, and so I'd have a positive sign there, a positive sign there, and at this point I would just add those numbers on the top. So the method is no different, just be careful, make sure that you check whether you're adding or subtracting, and then just that final stage is the only part that's different. Okay. Next topic, multiplying mixed numbers. Here I've got 1 1/3 multiplied by 2 1/2. So again, whenever I see mixed numbers, the best thing to do is to turn them into top-heavy fractions. So I do that by taking the number on the bottom here, 3, and multiplying it by the whole number, 3 times 1, then add the 1 on top. That gives me 4/3. And I'm multiplying that by taking the denominator of the mixed number, 2, multiplied by the whole number, 2. 2 times 2 gives me 4. Add the 1 on top. That gives me 5 halves. So 4/3 multiplied by 5 halves. Now, all that I need to do now is multiply the top two together. That gives me 20. Multiply the bottom two together. That gives me 6. Now I've got 20 over 6. I can now simplify this. So 20 over 6 will simplify to 10/3. And then I can turn this into a mixed number. How many 3's fit into 10? 3, with a remainder of 1/3. So 3 1/3 is my final answer there. Okay, next topic, dividing mixed numbers. Here I've got 2 1/4 divided by 3 2/3. So again, I'm going to just turn each of these into top-heavy fractions. 4 multiplied by 2, add on the 1, that's going to give me 9/4, and I am dividing that by, and I've got 3 2/3 here, so taking the denominator, multiplying it by the whole number, 3 times 3 gives me 9, add the numerator, 11, and that's 11/3. So I've got 9/4 divided by 11/3. Now with dividing, I just need to remember that I keep the first one. So I keep the first one, I change the sign, and I flip the last part. So it's KCF, a nice way to remember this is like a dyslexic KFC. So keep, change, flip. So that means that I'm left with 9/4, and then I'm changing the sign, so I'm multiplying, and then I'm flipping the last one, so multiplied by 3/11. What I can say here is that if I'm dividing fractions, to divide a fraction I can simply multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction I'm dividing by. So when when I say that I'm flipping this fraction, what I'm really doing is, to use a slightly more mathematical term, I'm taking the reciprocal of the fraction on the end. So I've got 9/4 multiplied by 3/11. Now we just saw how to do this when multiplying mixed numbers. We simply multiply the numbers on top, that gives me 27, multiply the numbers on the bottom, and that gives me 44. So my final answer here is going to be 27 over 44. Okay, next one. Increase £35 by a, I don't know why it says A there. Increase £35 by 30%. So the first thing I'm going to do here, not using a calculator, is I'm just going to find 10%. 10% is going to give me £3.50. So to find 10%, just divide by 10. Then to find 30%, then I'm just going to multiply £3.50 by 3, and so that's going to give me £10.50. And then because I'm being asked to increase £35 by this amount, then I just need to add on the £10.50 to £35, and that's going to give me my answer. So £35 plus the £10.50, and that's going to give me an answer of £45 and 50p. So the next one, decrease £220 by 13%. First of all, find 10%. So 10%, that doesn't look very good, let's try that again. 10% is going to be £22. So I'm looking for 13%, so let's find out what 1% would be. So to find 10%, I've divided by 10, then let's divide 10% by 10 again to find what 1% is. I could also find 1% but simply by dividing by 100. So 1% is going to give me £2.20. This means that 3% would be 3 times as much as 1%. So 3% would be £6.60. And so then 13% in total is just going to be that 10% plus the 3%, and so that's going to be £28.60. Now here I'm being asked to decrease £220 by 13%, so by this amount here, so I'm just going to do 220 minus £28.60, and that's going to give me an answer of £191.40. So my final answer here would be £191.40. Okay, next part, £300 invested into a savings account which earns 1% compound interest per annum. How much will be in the account after 2 years? So what I like to do here is I like to set myself up a table. So I have beginning, so the amount of money that I have at the beginning of each year, the interest that's earned during the year, and then how much I'd have at the end of each year. So I start with year 1. At the beginning of year 1 I had £300 in the bank, and so my interest, well, 1% of 300, that's going to give me £3 interest, and so at the end of the year I'll have £303. So at the end of year 1 I'd have £303 because I've added that £3 interest onto the amount that I had at the beginning. I found that £3 simply by dividing 300 by 100, so to find 1% divide by 100, and that gave me an answer of £3. So in my second year, at the end of year 1 I had £303, so at the beginning of year 2 I'm going to have the same amount, 303. Now I need to find out what 1% would be. So my 1% here was £3. This time round it's going to be slightly more. It's going to be slightly more because I've got more in my bank account now. So my 1% this time round is going to be 303 divided by 100, which is going to give me £3 and 3p. So adding that on to the amount that I've got here, that's going to give me an amount of £306 and 3p. So how much will be in the account after 2 years? My answer here is going to be £306 and 3p. Next one, we've got ratio. There are 5 red beads on a necklace and 27 blue beads. Write down the ratio of red beads to blue beads. Simplify your answer fully. So I've got 45 red beads to 27 blue beads. Notice that it was red to blue, so my red part has to come first, my blue part has to come second. So that would be it written as a ratio, 45 to 27. Now I just need to simplify my answer. So I need to find a number that fits into both 45 and into 27, and I can think that that is going to be 9. So if I divide both of these by 9, that's going to give me my answer. 45 divided by 9 is going to give me 5. Then 27 divided by 9 is going to give me 3. Then just a little check, make sure I've simplified it fully. Are there any other numbers apart from 1 that will fit into both 5 and 3? There aren't, so that is my final answer, 5 to 3. So 5 red beads for every 3 blue beads. Ratio again, this time sharing an amount by a ratio. So here we've got Mike and Anna share £28 in the ratio of 1 to 3. How much does Anna get? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my amount, £28, divide it by the ratio added together. So I've got 1 part to 3 parts, so I've got 4 parts in total, and that's going to give me £7. So what I can say to begin with is that one part is equal to £7. Then how much does Anna get? Well, we're saying that Mike, he comes first, so he gets the 1 part, he gets the first part of the ratio. Anna comes second, she gets the 3 parts. So if 1 part is £7, 3 parts will be 21. So multiplying what 1 part is by 3. So how much does Anna get? She gets £21. The second question here, Marcus and Felicity share some money in the ratio of 4:3. Felicity gets £12. How much does Marcus get? So Felicity came second in this sentence, so she is getting the second part of the ratio, which is 3. So what we can say then is that Felicity is getting £12. We know that £12 is 3 parts. So to find 1 part here, what I can do is I can say, well, Felicity gets 3 parts. 1 part then is going to be £12, the amount that Felicity got, divided by 3, the 3 parts that she gets, and that will tell me what just 1 part will be, which is £4. From this I can then say, well, Marcus is getting 4 parts. If 1 part is £4, 4 parts will be 4 lots of £4, so that's going to give me an answer of £16. So Marcus gets £16, and that would be my final answer.